I'm Vexton, and I'm here to share with you the wonders of Unity 5. If you're here, you probably know what Unity is. Just for a recap, it's a game engine, and it's beautiful and free and really, really powerful. So it's great for people that want to pick up game development as a hobby, or people that want to expand their expertise without spending any money. So there's going to be a link up in the top left right here to this website right here, which is unity3d.com. Just in case you're on mobile or something, I'm sure there will be a link in the description as well. So if you can't click annotations, it's chill. You can go into the description or to unity3d.com. And once you've gone there, you're going to click that yellow button that I just clicked, and it's going to bring you to this page. This is the Get Unity page, obviously. And this is where you can compare personal and professional editions, as well as enterprise, education, and industry solutions types of getting your hands on Unity. You're probably a hobbyist or enthusiast or something of that sort. You want personal edition. Professional edition is for people that are doing this to get paid in a company setting with like a group of 5 on the low end, maybe to like 30 people. Okay, the personal edition is what you're going to use when you're by yourself or with a couple of your friends and to get Unity. Okay, you don't need to pay the $75 a month or buy the Enterprise edition in order to get your hands on Unity. Hit the free download, and when it's done downloading, I'll assume that since you're getting into game development, you probably know how to handle an installer. So handle that installer, install Unity, and launch it, and I'll see you guys in just a second. So you've launched Unity, and you are presented with this page, which is a pretty simple little UI that is your projects menu. Really quick, before we actually get into making a project, look down here. This is a fantastic little corner. This gives you community, documentation, and tutorial links. Community is the forums for Unity, and also Unity Answers, which is a fantastic place to go if you have questions and you're not sure about something. They are very, very picky about writing scripts. They will not write you code. And that's something that is very, very clearly stated everywhere. Don't go in there looking for someone to teach you how to go program a fantastic game. If you're like, hey, I don't know what this thing does, what's it do, then you want to go to the community. If you're looking for something that does a certain thing, you go to documentation. Documentation has all sorts of scripting references and references to everything in Unity, so if there's anything you don't understand within the engine, you can also go to documentation and get that figured out. And finally, tutorials. Unity has a ton of official tutorials on their website, as well as they have scheduled live tutorials. You'll have to check their website for the schedules, but they have plenty of live stream tutorials, and you can ask questions during the live stream, and that provides you with a lot better understanding of Unity. So you'll see that I have 3 projects here. This one comes with Unity, comes pre-installed, and these 2 are my own things. So to get your own things, we're going to go up here and obviously hit New Project. And we're going to name it something adventurous and something exciting, something original. Flip Channel Tutorial Project Masterpiece. Except for the fact that it didn't spell tutorial right. Tutorial. Down here we have the directory where your project is going to be stored. I really recommend not putting this on the desktop. I also recommend not putting it in your documents folder, which is the default. I recommend that you create a folder within your users/user directory, and you call it something along the lines of Unity, and within that you make a folder called projects or something along those lines, and that is where you put your projects, for organization's sake. You'll learn through this tutorial series that I am a stickler for organization. Here, these buttons, we have 2D versus 3D. I would assume you know what 2D versus 3D is. If you don't, hey, I have drawings from when I tried to record this earlier. This is 2D. There's a y-axis and an x-axis. The x-axis is left and right, the y-axis is up and down. We have coordinates along this point, so this might be 1, 1, this might be 2, 2, this might be 2, 1. I had to think about that for a second. This is a 3D. Planes. You have your y up and down, you have your x side to side, and you have depth, you have your z. So you might have a point. I can't actually draw that because this is a 2D drawing board. But you have 3 different coordinates: a depth, width, and height. So back to Unity. We're going to want to use 3D for this tutorial series. And here we have asset packages. Don't worry about this. There's lots of pre-made stuff that you can load into Unity that comes pre-installed, comes with the engine. You're not going to want any of this right now. We will import characters, but we want to do that later. We don't need that right now. In fact, we don't even need it for this video. So you have everything set up, it's all fancy and dancy, and you have your name, and you have the directory, and you have it set for 3D with no asset packages, and you're going to hit Create Project. And this shouldn't take too long at all, especially if you have a decent hardware. So once Unity is open, you will probably get this annoying little window pop up. This is Unity Update Check. Unity Editor Update Check. Posh. You'll see that I am using 5.0.0 F4. The newest version is 5.0.1 F1. It's fine as long as you're using Unity 5. It's no big deal if our versions are off, but just in case something big has changed in between the versions, if you're watching this video at a later point in time, that's what version I'm using, and that's why it's different. So here we have the Unity interface. Oopsies. Here we have the hierarchy, which is one of the tabs that you're going to be using the most. This shows you all the stuff that's in the scene currently, and all the stuff that you can mess with right now. So you'll see that we have a main camera right here in the scene. And just give me a second, I'll explain this window as well. But this is where you see all the stuff in the scene. You have a camera right here, and we have a directional light. And I'll explain both of those in just a second. Down here we have the Project tab and the Console tab. Project tab shows you all of the stuff that's in your Unity project directory. So here I have assets folder. There's really nothing in here. I can go ahead and create a folder and call it Things. And now we have a Things folder, and we can put stuff in that folder. And you'll usually use this to organize textures and scripts and materials and models and all sorts of stuff. All sorts of clutter that you'll have by the end of this. Over here, on the right hand side, we have the inspector. So right now we are inspecting the Things folder. Things folder is pretty boring, to be frank. So here we have the render window. This render window shows you all the stuff in the scene graphically. So we have our camera and our directional light, and you can click on these to select them. And you can, and if I get back over here, you can use middle click and drag to pan around, which is wonderful. I really like the way that this is set up. The way this you can move around the render window so easily. So the inspector window, let's go into more detail with that. So here I have the directional light selected, and you can see in the render window that it's pointing down in this direction. So directional light basically provides constant light in one direction, whether that be below the ground or above the ground. This just makes everything lit, ever. And you can see here that we have baking settings, we have type settings. You can change this to a spotlight or a point light. We have color. I think I already said color. We have intensity, which we can change. We have bounce intensity and all sorts of other stuff that's fun to mess with. And we'll be going through and messing with a lot of settings, probably in the next episode more so than in this episode. And we have our camera. So directional light has all these light settings. There's this light component on this object. The camera has a camera component. It also has a GUI layer, flare layer, and audio listener component. But camera's the big one. These ones don't have any options, actually. In the camera, the settings are a lot different. We have a background color, we have the culling mask, we have projection, whether it's kind of like whether you have perspective or not, so whether this looks 3D or whether it looks more 2D, whether you can tell depth or not. If I change this to orthographic, you might be able to get a better idea of what I'm talking about. So instead of there being, with perspective, we had this small rectangle right here that expands out into this larger rectangle at a certain degree angle, which makes you have perspective. Whereas in orthographic, we have just this rectangle. You can't get a sense of depth. There is no such thing as depth. We're going to leave that at perspective, obviously. And field of view, if you play video games, you know what field of view is. We can change this all the way from 179 to 1 degrees. 60 is what it's usually at, so we're going to put it at 60. Throughout this tutorial series, I'm going to try and keep absolutely everything standard. If there's a default setting, I'm going to try and leave it default unless the purpose of doing what I'm doing is to change that setting. And if I do change something, I'm going to tell you about it. Just so if you are like, hey, why is my thing different? You'll know why your thing's different. So we have a camera and our light, but that's all fine and dandy. We can even look through our camera and see the effects of the light and the skybox if we click play up here, which switches us from the scene tab to the game tab. It's just, it's void and sky. Boring game. I can't even move around. I can't look around, for X's sake. Well, I guess this isn't much of an improvement. It's not much of an improvement. But if we go to game object, 3D object, plane, we can make things. Oh, joyous day, we can make things. And then this is a wonderful opportunity to use the inspector window. Up here you can see the position of this plane is about -1, 1.5, -5, -6. We don't want that. That's really off-center, and we want this plane to be nice and flush with the center of the world. So we're going to click on the X value, hit 0, click 0, click 0. We can also click this X and slide it back and forth, or we can grab one of these handles and slide it back and forth. However, we want it, oopsies, we want it to be mother truckin' 0, so we keep it 0. But it's not very big. You can see if we go through the camera, we can even see the beginning of the plane. I mean, it's puny. If we have a character, he's not going to be able to walk on this. This is barely enough room to lay down, which is an unrealistic fact. That's plenty of room to lay down. I wish my bed was that big. So we can change the scale of the plane. We also have rotation here, which I should mention. Rotation, if you rotate it along the y-axis, that's probably the best way to rotate it right now. You'll see that it kind of twists around along this green axis right here, which is the y. Blue is always z, and red is always x, and y is always green. That's a good rule of thumb to know. Oh, haha! This just in, you can also use E and Q when you're holding right click to go up and down in the editor. You learn something new every day. So let's go back to our plane. No, stop that. Stop that. There we go. I had this button selected. Okay, this is actually a good thing to talk about real quick. Up here we have the grab tool, which just makes you pan, same thing as holding middle click. We have our little position, transform tool, I would call it, so we can grab anchors and stuff, or handles. I keep calling them anchors, they're handles. We have, I believe that, yeah, it's rotation, so we can rotate things by using these handles. And how this is all messed up, no! We have the scale tool, so we can scale things using handles, which we actually do want to do. So that's pleasant. I'll say about 5. I want these to be about 5. I know it's going to bug me that they're so off, so we're going to set them all to 5. We also have, okay, so that's Q. If we hit Q, we go to pan tool. W is this. E is rotation. R is scale, and we can also use T. I took down my keyboard there. I believe this is an origin changing tool. It's mainly used for 2D games. This might be the sprite tool. I don't use a lot of 2D stuff. I don't really mess with 2D games much, but that's mainly a tool. If you hit T, that's mainly a tool for 2D games, which we're not going to be using at all in this series. Okay, so now we have a nice big plane if we look through our camera without hitting pause, although it doesn't really matter, there's no action in our game. You see that now there's this white plane instead of the grayness. There's the sky and the white plane. White plane's still boring though. So now we're going to mess with materials. Earlier, I talked about how let's click camera first, it's easier to click. This camera has this camera component. The word's component. And it has all these settings. And the light has this light component and has all these settings. Well, we can add our own components to things, which actually we have a material right here, so we don't need to use add component right yet. So we're going to actually delete the things folder, we don't need it right now. That took an awfully long time to delete. And then here we're going to create a new folder for the sake of organization. It's really important to be organized, and I'm going to stress that a lot. We're going to create a new one called materials, if I can type at all. We're going to call it materials, and we're going to go inside it, and we're going to create, and then we're going to create a material. Material is like, it's the surface of an object, but it's not the detailed surface of an object. We're going to call this cube material, because you'll see in actually, no we're not. That's not what I'm using this for. Hit F2, we can change the name of it while it's selected. I'm going to call this the plane material. Totally can type today. And this is the material we're going to use for our plane. So you can see we have a little sphere right here, or we can even change it to a cube, and that is our little preview, or a cylinder, or a torus mesh, or no, just a sphere. Kind of excited there for a second. We can change all sorts of things about this. For example, we can use these smoothness sliders to change the smoothness. Now it looks like a really, really smooth ball. We can put that back to 0.5 actually. We can use the metallic slider to make this look really, really metallic, or really, really not metallic. And that's the default for that is 0. And then the really important thing here that we're going to be messing with right now to make it a little bit more visible in the scene is color. And it doesn't mean that you can't mess with these. Honestly, as soon as you're done watching this video, go back and play with metallic and smoothness and color and see what kind of different combinations you can get by using them all together. You can get some really cool looking stuff. Okay, so color. You can see that we have this hue. I guess it would be the hue slider right here. Okay, so I just landed on purple by accident. And we can move our little cursor around here. We can if we want a really deep purple, if we want a really bright purple, if we want like barely purple, if we want really, really black, and just straight up black, and it's pointless to have this on purple, because it's just black. We can kind of mix and match the colors here. So we're going to go for like a nice, a Saints Row Saints purple, which is something around like that. And say we want this to be metallic. We can change out the metallic slider, and now it's a metallic purple. Or we can make it really smooth, or really, really dull. Now to see this in action, we're going to drag our plane material from the projects window into the render window, and now it's in our plane. Now one thing that really sets Unity apart from other game engines, and this is one of my favorite features, it's incredible, is we can hit the play button, and then we can go over here, and we can screw with this. We can make it super metallic, and we can make it super smooth, or we can make it not metallic and super smooth. And we can change all these settings while the game is rendered, while the game is currently going. So we're going to get out of play. And it has the same effects. You just really don't have a very good view, especially not being able to move the camera, which we will talk about next episode. So let's go back. We can now click on the plane, and since the material is applied to the plane, we can edit the material straight from the plane. So we can get a kind of better view from this position. So that's fancy. Materials. Definitely go play with these. Materials are fantastic. That's about all we have time for today in this tutorial. Thank you very much for watching. The next tutorial will probably be out within the next week. I don't know. I'm probably going to schedule these and have a set schedule with the other Flip guys. So I don't know when the next one's going to actually be uploaded, but I would be definitely putting out more of these. In fact, I'm probably going to go record the next one right now. These are fun. I hope you learned a lot. If you're new to Unity, I hope you enjoyed. I hope this contributed to your ambitions. Go have fun. See you later.